one of the last compositions of Ramdas Swami before he left his mortal body in 1681 is called Anandavana Bhuvani, where he is basically dreaming of an India where Mughals have been destroyed and Hindus are again ruling India, and Kashi Vishwanath is again in place, and so on and so forth. So this hope was given to Hindus by this endeavor of this particular individual who, against all odds, managed to fight off five armies and establish a kingdom in all its senses. He brought in ancient, not just rituals, but way of thinking, ancient polity, value system. He made sure he adapted himself and updated himself on technology front, cavalry, gunpowder, so on and so forth. Navy, most importantly, navy, so on and so forth. Thirdly, he tried and actively encouraged the bringing back alienated Indians back to Indic folds. So various people who had been forcibly converted were converted back to Hinduism by at the orders of Chhatrapati and his successors. It continued throughout the existence of this Hinduvi Swarajya 2.0, if I may call it. So almost all five, 6 points, six aims were attacked, at least attacked, and to large extent achieved. We have known from Nilesh Oakji's research and earlier Dr. P.V. Vartak's research that it can go way back. So, hence, rightly so, we have been calling our civilization and our way of life as Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana literally comes from three Sanskrit word roots. Sat is primordial consciousness, A is from, and Tan, it's a continuous unbroken stretch. Now we stretch a string of, we stretch string, or we stretch some metal piece. It becomes thin, it becomes elongated, like it's like a thread. That continuity is the key which is conveyed by this word called Sanatan. We will not be going to as far as back to Sat, because Sat is, as our traditions and our Shrutis call, Sapurusha. No, it was before everything else. So we are not going to go there. In the course of this long history and long existence, long continuous and unbroken existence, we have we had to face numerous challenges. I mean, it's part of life. Nobody is free of problems. Applies to civilizations also. Various civilizations have faced, suffered, risen, crumbled, made various kinds of responses to threats which they have encountered in their lifespan, short or long. Somehow, India is, or Dharmic tradition is, one of the only ones which is surviving, which was there when the ancient Sumerians were in the world ruling. Ancient Babylonians were there, ancient Chinese were there, ancient Romans were there. We were there too. And today, when none of them are existing in their original form, we still are existing in our original form. That is due to we manage to evolve continuously and give a timely response to emerging threats with that ability to continuously adapt and change while not losing out on our essence, the Sanatanatva, the continuity of unbroken heritage. That has made this civilization. I mean, I am a Hindu, so I'll be biased, but even if I look at it as a neutral observer, if I can, that this ability itself is very fascinating. Nobody, it's not possible, but it's really fascinating that why Egyptians, and Iqbal has said, Roma, Misra, all these ancient civilizations have, no, they have ceased to exist. We अब तक मगर है बाकी नामो निशान हमारा. For some reason, there is something which enables us to be Nitya Nutan. I mean, we use this word very frequently in our religious discourses when we are describing Sri Krishna or Sri Ram or any Devata. One who is Sanatana, who is ancient and ever evolving, ever new, Nitya Nutan. Then Sanatano Nitya Nutana. These two words actually describe Hindu way of life since antiquity until now. So how we have evolved and what responses we had in towards the stimuli which were being poked at us by various factors, be it environmental factors, be it anthropological factors like invasions, migrations, etc., etc. And I'll be focusing more on last 1,000 years because we have not been tested as vigorously or are as rigorously as we have been in last 1,000 years. The way before that, because before that um, there was no ideological threat or ideological invasion which struck at our very roots. When we can say Buddhism was one of them. Buddhism, in my opinion, was the strongest opponent, if I can call this word, to Aztec, the Orthodox Hindu way of life. But it did not have a military angle. It did not have angle of warfare. All that happened was a shastrartha between few acharyas, maybe very heated debates, maybe few cuss words thrown around, but at the most that's it. Nothing. There was no genocides which were happening just because they people disagreed on whether Atma is eternal or Atma is going to end when we attain Nirvana. These are very nuanced discussions. In last 1,000 years, the choice was to either accept or die or convert. And our ancestors, those who are continue to be Hindus today, or they call themselves Hindus today. By Hindus, I mean as the way Indian Constitution defines Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, Sikhs. We are Hindus today because our ancestors fought on. They resisted, they compromised, they did n number of strategies, they employed n number of strategies just to ensure that the heritage, the unbroken eternal heritage, continues to be passed on to next generations. So we evolved and we had a strategic mind. So we are going to see how that thing was done in last 1,000 years. I have just made this small flow chart. It's slightly cluttered, but there are too many variables. I had to club them up in one slide. The phrase "pursuit of happiness" is quite popular. Especially it found its mention in a preamble of American Constitution. Every man has a right to pursue happiness. So the initial opening lines of Chanakya Arthashastra describe basically the primordial drive of every human being, or rather every living being, is to find sukh. Sukhasya moolam dharma. And he goes backwards from sukh. The ultimate aim of everybody or every living being is to attain some sukh, fulfillment, happiness, content. How the root of that sukh is dharma. Dharma is that all encompassing system which is just A, and B, which addresses this drive to attain sukha of everybody, not at the cost of a particular group or a particular person. A solution set, as we call it in mathematics, Nash equilibrium for people who know game theory. An equilibrium wherein the drive to achieve sukh of every component in ecology is addressed. That set of solutions is called dharma. What is at the root of dharma, as in who ensures that dharma is established in a given in land, is the state, rajya. And what is the root? What will enable a rajya to ensure dharma is established so that everybody attains to that? When the ruler has control over his desires, indriya jaya. See, the root of rajya is not raja. The root of rajya is indriya jaya of raja. The Raja has to have the Indriya Jaya. He has to have control over his basal desires because he has absolute power, physical power, to give or take life. That is the ultimate power a human beings bestow upon their rulers, to right to life. So hence it is most critically important for a Raja to have achieved Indriya Jaya. How to achieve Indriya Jaya? Acharya says by Vinaya, humility. A Raja has to inculcate the quality of humility. If one is humble, Indriya Jaya becomes easier. And how to achieve the humility? It is Vruddhopaseva. Vruddha here doesn't mean old people. It means those who have attained excellence in either knowledge or experience, or elders, not just age wise, knowledge wise, or experience wise. Heed to their experiences. It has also a deeper meaning, adhyatmic meaning, wherein Vruddha means Sadguru or Guru, who is Shrotriya and Brahmanishta. So he has this, again, this coming, and he embodies Atman, he embodies Parabrahma. So again, the chain is coming directly from Parabrahma to Sukha of each and every individual. This chain is very important. While we will be discussing only it only in terms of this worldly affairs, politics, polity. This is also applicable to even our Adhyatmic tribes, or Adhidevic tribes, not just Bhautik tribes. Sukha is threefold or fourfold, but and this green blocks indicate this more individual, and the blue ones are more polity wise. Sukha for few is kama, desires. Fulfillment of desires is sukh for some people. For some people, achieving moksha or liberation is sukh. For some people, earning artha, earning wealth, earning power is sukh. But all this has to be within the ambit of dharma. If one tries to fulfill his desire or achieve moksha or earn wealth outside the ambit of dharma, he becomes adharmic and hence asurik. And our stories are replete with examples where gods and rakshasas have fought each other for establishment of dharma. Asura are basically those who try to fulfill their sukha disregarding dharma. That's a simple distinction between Manav, Deva, and Asura. This is the essence of Hindu polity. So every Hindu king or every Hindu polity, need not be king, even republics, had to ensure that a system is in place wherein every component in the society, we are talking about humans now, is able to pursue dharma, artha, kama, moksha by being in the ambit of Rajadharma. To ensure this is in place is the primal duty of a Raja or a polity. This connect with Sanatana is most important. And Raja is symbolized by these two devatas in our tradition. The first is Varaha. We know the story of Varaha, third avatar of Shri Vishnu. Hiranyaksha kidnapped Vedas and was drowning Prithvi. So Vishnu took incarnation of Varaha, and he liberated, or he took up Uddhar. Uddhar is the right word. I don't know how to translate Uddhar into English. To take up, to hold up is a vague translation. He held up Prithvi from drowning over his tusk. And this particular sculpture is from Rani Ki Vav in Gujarat, most fascinating place. Varaha is called Bhupati, and Vishnu's wife since then is Bhudevi. So Vishnu has two wives, Lakshmi, Shri Devi, and Prithvi, Bhudevi. So hence Raja is also called Bhupati. And even in Hindu tradition, Abhishek the king or a coronated king is the avatar of Shri Vishnu. He is a representative of Vishnu who has duty it ordained to him by Vishnu to uphold dharma in his domain. So what is king is Varaha. How a king should be is Sri Ram. Even here we see this couple of Vishnu and Bhudevi. We know Sita ji was daughter of Prithvi, so she embodies Prithvitva. So Vishnu and Bhudevi, this couple, this Purusha Prakriti couple, is seen in these two avatars of Vishnu. What is king is Bhupati Varaha. How this Bhupati should behave is Sri Rama and Sita. The ability or the emphasis of every Hindu politician or a Hindu polity or Hindu king, since first King Vain or until Narendra Modi ji, uh, they try to seek this connect to Sanatanatva, the unbroken continuous lineage. This connect is most emphasized upon by those who have been rooted Hindu kings. They seek the validation of their rule in Shruti, Smriti, Purana, and Itihas. The value system which is embodied in our Shruti, Smriti, Purana is present in every rooted Hindu king. And this particular Richa from Rigveda, Prithvya Samudra Paryantaya Ekarayati. This land from mountains to ocean is one Rashtra. Now, there is no mount. This land until the oceans is one Rashtra. This particular phrase is from Aitariya Brahman in Rigveda, but has embodied and has shaped the concept of geography in Hindu mind since antiquity, since time immemorial. I mean, we believe that Vedas are apaurushaya. So this line is before time, has been there before time, as per our belief, Hindu belief system. So since then, this land from mountains to ocean is one Rashtra, has been drilled time and again. We chant it every day after Arati, every Arati, especially Maharashtra and south of India. We sing a hymn called Mantra Pushpanjali. This line is chanted every day from there. So, A, Hindu tradition or Sanatanatva is ancient, it is unbroken, it is ever evolving and new. It has validation from Shruti and Smriti. The role models of this validation are Varaha and Ram, and the fact that the land from mountains to ocean, in simple words, from Himalayas to Indian Ocean, this Indian subcontinent is one Rashtra. This sentiment, this line has been shaping the subconscious way Hindus have been looking at geography and history and politics. There are various modes. I mean, in the same hymn, Mantra Pushpanjali, there is a very beautiful verse which describes various political models which are extant in Indian geography. So while India is one Rashtra, there are various Rajyas or various governance models, various states. The hymn goes this way: Om Swasti Samrajyam, Bhaujyam, Swarajyam, Vairajyam, Parameshtham Rajyam, Maharajyam, Adhipatyamayam. So there are various modes of governance. Dr. K.P. Jayaswal, who has written a beautiful book on Hindu polity, has categorized Hindu political units or Hindu political models in these three domains: Adhipatya, Sarvabhauma, and Samrajya. Adhipatya is complete suzerainty, overlordship over dominant of a dominant or a weaker power. I mean, there are various ruchas where a king, while doing basically, there are ruchas from Rajasuya, which state that I am enveloping my neighbor's kingdom and making him my protectorate or my vassal or I'm overlord of it. So Adhipatya is basically overlordship. There is one high king, and there are various small kings. Doesn't matter how big the area is. There can be an Adhipati of Magad, there can be an Adhipati of Vidarbha, there can be Adhipati of Rajputana, so on and so forth. Sarvabhauma is basically controlling entire geography of India, ability or wanting to dominate or to control from mountains to ocean. Prithvya Samudra Paryantaya Ekarayati. To make so it can be a very weak monarchy. The kings, the states, the kingdoms which he had conquered remain and continue to exist as they are, but all of them except this particular king as a Sarvabhauma. So this is more of a model of Ashwamedh, Chakravarti model. And third one is Samrajya, collection of state, imperial federation. We will see more of the third one as we go on, because that is what Hindavi Swarajya was. It was a federation, and that is what modern India is today. It's a more or less a federation with a very strong center. These are basically the three models in which the Jayaswal has categorized various governance models of Hindus. As I said, there is concept of insiders and outsiders. Once this is established, we are believers of Shruti Pranokta Dharma, Sanatan Dharma. It is apaurushaya. It has all the unbroken lineage, etc., etc. It manifests itself into the very name of our country. Hindus have not called India as India. The most popular name for India, when we are talking in our native language, is Bharat or something similar, Jambudvip, Aryavat, so on and so forth. The Puranic reference for the name Bharat and its geography is this famous verse from Vishnu Puran. The country to the north of Indian Ocean, south of Himalaya, is called Bharat, and the descendants of Bharat king lived there, called Bharati or Bharatiyas. So Indian, the endonym of India for Indians has always been Bharat, or it's no, or similar here. Exonym has always been pertaining to Sindhu River. So Sindhu River in Sanskrit became Hindu Persian because there's a SNH interchange in Persian and Persian and ancient Sanskrit. It became Indus in Greek, India in English. So land to the east of Indus River is India. So India, Hindu, all these words are basically geographical determinants. They determine India, or they consider India as geography, wherein Bharat considers India as a Bhudevi. This is a very important, albeit subtle, difference in a way how Indians or how Sanatan Dharmis look at India. It also manifests nowadays, especially in last 100 years, as Mother India, no? Goddess India, goddess in a form of India. This, whilst we have this concept of Bhudevi, we had this Devata of Bhudevi since ancient times, since Vande Mataram, since Bankim Chandra. It has gotten a new form, that is the modern map of India. We have this Devi with flag of India and lion. It's a very popular motif. It has aroused various Indians to freedom struggle. So Hindus or Sanatan Dharmis look at Bharata as a Bhudevi, while outsiders, I define outsiders as non-Sanatan Dharmis, they might be citizens of India, but non-Sanatan Dharmis, view look at India as a geographical entity. This is reflected also in Churchill's infamous statement: "If India is a nation, so is equator." They didn't consider India as a nation. It is still reflected in various left liberal narratives that India was made a nation by its East India Company. It was a confederation of warring warlords before that, since antiquity. This has in direct diametric opposition to how Indians have been looking at India since the same antiquity. So this distinction is most important, and it will play out as we go ahead in our story. Now I got this beautiful map. They have rendered it in such a way that they have removed all water from the Indian subcontinent, and it shows how the geography of India looks. So this is famous. I'm forgetting the description. It is definitely from Shruti, from Vedas, that Himalaya with his two hands is embracing Prithvi. So it looks like, Himalaya is basically embracing Bharata from all three sides, and of course there is ocean on other three sides. So it is basically a barricaded geography with completely different I mean, it's directly, strikingly visible when we look at this particular map of India. The Tibetan Plateau, Central Asian, Afghanistan, Iranian Plateau, this Hindu Kush, Himalayas, Arachnees Mountains, which are again an arm of Himalayas. And the ecosystem which is enclosed within this is so visually different that it is not impossible to think that a unique civilization evolved here. It was connected with others, of course, but it was able to retain its uniqueness thanks to this geography. And this geography plays extremely important role. As I said even previously, Prithvi Samudra Parantaya Ekarayati, this particular rucha makes it impacts on your mind when you see this particular photo. This Prithvi, this land from mountains to ocean is one nation. The geography has ordained it. It has to be one nation. It has been one nation. It doesn't only have a scriptural backing. It has a geographical and hard physical backing to it. So more or less, the politicians or polity or the geopolitics of India has evolved in such a way that there are basically three zones. One is beyond Himalayas, either towards Hindu Kush or Tibet. Tibet and Himalayas are still very sparsely populated, and it's difficult to traverse even today. It was almost impossible in pre-aviation era. But Khyber Pass and Central Asia has always been accessible, and Bolan Pass, etc. So the lands beyond Hindu Kush or beyond Himalayas to northwest is one buffer. The region between Hindu Kush and Sindhu River is one buffer, And Sindhu से east में, everything to the east of Sindhus is the core heartland, let's say, Indo-Gangetic Plains, as we call it, and peninsular India. That has been the core land or core geography which Hindus have always tried to save at all costs. Whenever, of course, they always retreated, they expanded. The cycle of expansion retreat has been seen many times, but they have more or less tried to maintain कि at least Sindhu तक का जमीन should remain with us. That had been the drive of various Hindu politicians or Indic politicians. Second important key, what was happening in the outer tier. There is this very very beautiful metaphor given to this by G.S. Sardesai, who's written Riyasat, 11 volumes of medieval history. Ki steppe are the anthill of nations. Ki there are wave after wave of tribes coming out of steppe and spilling over into various settled societies. They have not just invaded only India, they have invaded Iran, they have invaded Roman Empire, they have invaded China, they have invaded India, they have invaded Middle East, as in Babylonia and Mesopotamia. So there is wave after wave of horsemen with bow and arrow, so mounted archers, and a nation at war where women and men all fight. There are more horses than men. This particular motif has been playing out in all the 4 5 settled civilizations of the ancient and modern world, ancient world, again and again. So even India here had our own share of invasions from Central Asia. The earliest one is mentioned in Vedas. We call it Dacharajna Yuddha. I think Mr. Sanjay Dikshit ji spoke about it briefly few days ago on Sangam. How the confederacy of 10 kings who were defeated on the banks of Ravi river by a king called Sudas with the help of Indra. He repulsed the invasion of this confederacy of 10 kings, who then went to Iran, and how Zoroastrianism, let's say, bifurcated from the Indian core heartland of Vedic civilization. So we have this example. Then there are examples in Mahabharata, even in post-Buddha history. There have been Indo-Greeks settled in Afghanistan. Then there have been Scythians, Shakas, Kushans, Huns. Wave after wave, every couple of centuries later, there is a wave of big nation spilling over from western or eastern steppe, being thrown away by their predecessors. After Huns, there were Turks, there were Mongols, Afghans. That wave has been incessant until Panipat, 1761, where we will be stopping our story today. I mean, that is one of the most important defining achievement of Panipat, that Panipat put a stop to this invasion for good on Punjab. He started again with the rise of Taliban in 1990s, but the reasons are different. But Panipat was a turning point in history of India from a very long perspective. That at least in last 200-300 years there hasn't been any Central Asian invasion on India. How did Indians dealt with these waves which are coming over and over again? So I mean, I have seen what I've said is there are sixfold challenges in front of a Hindu polity when dealing with external invasion. Its external invasion is not always in form of military. It always has a military angle, but it also has an ideological angle. It has a cultural angle. It has a civilizational angle. It has an economic angle. So all these multi-pronged angles are there when civilization is attacked by another civilization. The challenge in front of Hindu polity or the stakeholders who were at the position of ensuring the relevance of Hindu polity at different times, different points of time in last 1 year, has been this sixfold. A, to maintain that Sanatanam Nityanutanatva in changing times, while adapting to changing times. So while we have to adapt, we have to hold on to that continuous lineage, that thread, which has come down to us from Sat Atana. Second is to, once some foreign power or a foreign civilization or a foreign army has installed itself in India, the first aim is to overthrow that influence using, of course, military or various means available or at our disposal. First is to overthrow it. Now, in last 1,000 years, until who knows, if we had achieved these first two, we were done. There was no lasting impact on the other 4 points. But in last 1,000 years, when Abrahamic invasions, I mean, when Central Asians became Abrahamic, when Turks have been invading India before they became Muslim, they were Buddhists before, they were Hindus, they have been the shamanic religions which they have been following. Mongols were shamans. So while they were invading as shamans or no Buddhists or their native religions, the the remaining 4 points were not a problem, or they didn't matter to anyone who is the stakeholder in ensuring Hindu polity. It didn't matter to Guptas or Satavahanas or Harshavardhan, etc. Abrahamic religions added the angle of religion to the military and economic invasion. So the very outlook of some people was changed due to conversion. I call them alienated Indians. For example, Pathans have been, they are part of the buffer zone between Sindhu and Hindu Kush. We could call it Pakhtunistan. Shahi Empire, Patanjali, Panini, all these rishis were from Peshawar region, Takshila region, that region. So we may call them precursors of Pathans, modern day Pathans. But when Pathans converted to Islam and when they started invading, I call them alienated Indians. So the second aim of any Hindu polity is to defeat, after they have defeated the visible foreign power, one who is outside the buffer zone, they have to defeat our own people who have been alienated and which are controlling territories of India, but ruling with a mindset of an alien ideology. Pathans, after becoming Muslims, are alienated Indians, so on and so forth. Turks and Mughals are the outsiders. Britishers were outsiders. And they're visible out foreign powers. But when Indian people, Tipu was alienated Indian. He was basically a Kannadiga. Or no, I mean, no matter how or what lineage every Ashraf in India tends to see the Quraysh or no whatever. But more or less, they are converted Indians. So these are alienated Indians who are wanting to influence the policies of India as per their new ideology. The second aim is to defeat and overthrow the rule of these alienated Indians. Third is to reconquer the territory occupied by alienated Indians. In modern day, the people residing in Pakistan or Bangladesh, they're Indians. They have been Hindus once, but they are now alienated. But they are right now squatting on territory which is part of what we call our Bhudevi, our Mother India. Same with no, why did Sadashivara Bhau went north? It was to take care of Bengal Nawab, no, Shujaud Najibud so on and so forth. They were alienated Indians squatting on Indian territory. So aim was to reconquer India from occupation of these alienated Indians influenced by foreign ideologies. Fourth, fifth is to establish Indic system of rule, Swarajya, Hindavi Swarajya. The ability to rule our land as per our value systems. The whole drive of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj to do what to start his endeavor is to he has very plain words said, I want to liberate all my Tirtha Kshetras and 7 rivers. To liberate 7 rivers and our Tirtha Kshetras and bring them under Hindu fold. That has been the stated aim of Hindu Swarajya of Shivaji Maharaj. So to establish an Indic system, he reformed the language, he reformed the governance models, he took the ideals from way back, Ashtapradhan Mandal, how many Amatya should be there. There are various chapters in our various Arthashastra related books. How many ministers should be there in the cabinet? So he decided that there should be 8 ministers. So all these ideas are Sanatana, they are very old. And Shivaji Maharaj was trying to bring that, while adapting materially in this worldly fashion, to show the continuity from Sanatana. Sanatana Nityanutanatva. So this is the fifth aim of Hindu polity stakeholder in any given time. And last one is to bring back the alienated Indians back to Indic fold. It has been done mostly by various gurus, various rulers. Shivaji Maharaj did it. Bappa Rawal Rajputs did it. Deval Rishi and Bhashikar Medhatithi did it. Swami Shraddhananda did it. In modern times, we colloquially call it Ghar Wapsi. It is basically to bring back the alienated Indians and make them look at the world again from Hindu lens or Indian lens. These six challenges or aims or to-do list has been on the menu of every ruler who has tried to install a self-rule of Indians on India in last 1,000 years, and who has been openly, abashedly speaking that I am doing this for for Hindu Swaraj. There are various attempts by various players at different points of time. I mean, the earliest ones were earlier Rajputs and Chalukyas when Arabs invaded India in 700s. So there is very famous battle of Rajasthan, Bappa Raval, Nag Bhatt, various kings from Chalukyas in south, Rashtrakutas. There was almost 100-year war for Rajputana and Sindh, and Indians or Indics managed to repulse Arabs beyond Sindhu River. Sindh as a territory was gone, but apart from Sindh, rest of the Punjab and other regions were recaptured, and not just recaptured, the converted Indians were converted back to Dharmik fort whilst their occupation was there. And this is happening at the height of Arab expansion when they conquered Spain and they were about to conquer France in Battle of Toulouse. That is a time where Indics were able to withhold that tide and not let it cross and make and squat on any more territory than Sindh. Sindh was when it was, if I can use the word sacrifice, or it was we were not able to get it back then. It's a historical fact. It continued to be so. There's famous example of Battle of Bahraich, where Ghazni's nephew was defeated 1033 AD. The second most important resurgence or attempt to reclaim India or part of India and make it again Indic is Vijayanagar. It clearly had political and religious motivation. The popular story of the founding of the empire goes that Tughlaq had forcibly converted these two brothers, Harihar Rai and Bukkar Rai, and enslaved them. They ran away, came to Vidyaranya Swami, who reconverted back to Hinduism, and they were they are the ones who established this glorious empire called Vijayanagar, which kept South India uh, intact more or less from Central Asian Islamic invasions for 300 years. It's a huge achievement, especially in the time where the cavalry dominated armies of north and northwest were ravaging, and the Hindu armies in South India could not bear or could not rear horses in as many in numbers and quality. So, in spite of all that, they managed to keep South India more or less intact. It's a huge, and they not only kept it intact, they pioneered the resurgence of Hindus in those 300 years. So, it's again a fascinating part of Indian history. Parallel to that, was happening was Sisodiyas of Mewar, most prominently Rana Kumbh and Rana Sangha, Sangramjit Singh. Sangramjit Singh was, I will call him an attempt to make a Hindavi Swarajya 1.0. He was, this close to, he had encircled Lodhis. He had the necessary guile and valor to make the enemies fight with each other. So he helped, or rather remained calm, remained neutral when Babur was defeating Lodhis. So, and meanwhile, he was consolidating Rajputana, Gujarat, modern day MP, Malwa. So he was he was the closest Hindus came in north to oust, to achieve goal number 1 and 2 and 3 of the six-fold goal, to throw out the foreign power while retaining Sanatanatva and defeat the alienated Hindus, Lodhis. Again, but Battle of Khanwa happened, and in that one battle, the fortunes of Rana Sangha changed, and maybe know the history. I will not be going into detail of that. But it is very important because Vijayanagar and Rana Sangha, Sisodiya, they form the primer for what Shivaji Maharaj did 100 years later. That is the hence I said we cannot look Marathas on its own. They have this tradition of Rajputs, Vijayanagar, Sisodiya Rajputs, which fueled their expansion and their endeavors. The experiences of the earlier three iterations helped them a lot to overcome, as I said, to make new mistakes and not repeat the same mistakes again and again. So if Hindavi Swarajya 1.0 was Rana Sanga's Sisodia Empire, the Hindavi Swarajya, the 2.0, let's say, was Shivaji Maharaj. I have spoken about him in detail in my previous talk. I mean, just to give a gist of it, started at age of 14. I mean, who, as 14-year-old boy, taking the oath that I will liberate this punya, this earth, or this is my country from foreign rule, and liberate all my holy places and holy rivers from the occupation of Yavans. Yavans is the word which we use for Islamic invaders in medieval times. It's fascinating. He created history. He reinstalled or reinstituted various ancient Hindu practices, including the Rajabhishek coronation as per South rituals, Indrabhishek, which was a statement on its own for Hindus then. Kali Yuga has ended, Satya Yuga has arrived, and Vishnu has incarnated on the earth. The result of this was a bloody 27-year-old war between Mughals and Marathas, in which Hindavi Swarajya emerged victorious, and Bajirao and subsequent leaders reconquered India from Islamic domination after almost 700 years. It's a fascinating history. I'll be briefly touching into it in this talk. I have dealt with it in detail in my previous talk. And six, after Panipat, they got this relief. They managed to coalesce into some fighting units, and after Maharaja Ranjit Singh's emergence, they formed a very formidable empire, albeit a very short-lived one, in Punjab, wherein they continued the drive towards northwest started by Marathas and conquered Kabul after 1,000 years. I mean, the last time saffron flag floated was unfurled on Kabul was when perhaps Jaipal Shahi or Shahi dynasty was ruling before Ghaznavis and Sabuktajin invaded Ghazni. So it's a huge achievement on part of Sikhs to have continued that thrust of pushing the foreign ideologies and the adherents of foreign ideologies outside the natural frontier which is embedded in the Hindu mind of Hindu Kush, land up from Himalayas to ocean. The modern freedom movement, and especially in modern times, the conservative arm of it, since 1880s and 1920s, also share the same continuity from these previous predecessors. So what we have been seeing since 1986 or from 1925 or 1923, wherever we want to start the starting point of modern Hindu politics or Hindu nationalism in modern sense, they draw very heavily from a Sanatana Dharma and these 4 or 5 our predecessors who have tried in their capacity to deal with the problems of their time. I have spoken about Arab and Rajputs briefly. Lasted over a century. Arabs were repulsed. Territories east of Sindhus were regained. Most of population was converted back to Dharmic fold. That is the most important feature of this particular era. That Bappa Raval, Deval Rishi, Bhashyakar, Megatithi. After Shastra Vijay, there was a Dharma Vijay. This Shastra Vijay and Dharma Vijay is a very famous dichotomy used by Ashoka. The Dharma Vijay is superior to Shastra Vijay. But Savarkar has repeated it very beautifully that there cannot be a Dharma Vijay if there is no Shastra Vijay preceding it. This again famous verse from Ramayana, which Ramcharitamanas says, "Bhaya bin hoye na priti." And when Samudra was not giving the way, after three days of tapasya by Sri Ram, teen divas tak panth mangate Raghupati Sindhu kinare, he simply threatened Samudra to evaporate him, and that threat worked. The tapasya did not work. The threat of Brahmastra worked, and Sindhu Dehadrat Rahit Rahikar Agina Charan. So Shastra Vijay has to precede a Dharma Vijay. This was most successfully demonstrated by our ancestors during early Rajput and Chalukya eras against Arabs. Vijayanagar and Swami Vidyaranya Swami. Again, I demonstrated. I briefly touched upon it. two people forcibly converted back to Hinduism by a Shankaracharya of Sringeri Peeth, and starting a movement which basically saved South India from whatever that was ravaging rest of India for almost 300, 400 years. I mean, to give an example, there is not a single ancient temple standing in India north of Krishna River. Whichever temples have existing today are rebuilt by Marathas, most of them, not all, either by Marathas or some in Rajputana rebuilt by Rajputs. But the really ancient ones, 1,000-year-old, 1,500-year-old ones, 2,000-year-old ones, they're all been decimated throughout India. So this is the fact that why we see ancient temples, why we still see Brihadeshwar temple in Tanjavur. It has not been desecrated so far. It is thanks to Vidyaranya Swami and his two valiant brothers, Harihara and Bukkarai, who basically turned the tide and saved Dharma from being completely extinguished throughout the geography of India. Again, Sangha, this map signifies what I was trying to tell you. Ki Mewar kingdom was Hindavi Swarajya 1.0. He had taken care of Kutch, Gujarat, Sindh, Malwa, Multan, parts of Khandesh, parts of MP and Eastern MP, parts of Bundelkhand, and was almost on the verge of encircling Delhi and removing the Sultan of Delhi from from throne, from the imperium. It could not happen. Battle of Khanwa and various other factors, various military factors, economic factors, and strategic factors. There were some mistakes which we as Indians committed in that war. There were some technological superiorities, gunpowder, cannons, etc. I'll be dealing with them shortly. But these are mistakes. But nonetheless, Vijayanagar and Mewar gave the impetus to formation of Hindavi Swarajya 2.0 by Chhatrapati Shivaji in 1645 to 1680, while fighting five different enemies, one European one and four alienated Indians, one foreign Mughals, Adil Shah, Qutub Shah, Nizam Shah, Siddhi Abyssinians from Africa, and Portuguese from Europe. He, against all odds, forged this particular empire in his career of 30 years from zero. Uh, this was a frontier of these five forces battling each other. So there was a basic. It was basically a no man's land. It was a war ravaged territory, and in this war ravaged territory, with the help of geography of the local geography and the divine inspiration, as Ramdas Swami calls it, Hridayastha Dhala Narayana Prerna Keli. The Narayan was installed in Hridaya and who guided his light, who guided his way throughout, by describing Shivaji Maharaj. He basically stemmed the retreat of Indics in India and made them think that it is okay to dream, to think of India being ruled by Hindus. One of the last compositions of Ramdas Swami before he left his mortal body in 1681 is called Anandavana Bhuvani, where he is basically dreaming of an India where Mughals have been destroyed and Hindus are again ruling India, and Kashi Vishwanath is again in place, and so on and so forth. So this hope was given to Hindus by this endeavor of this particular individual who, against all odds, managed to fight off five armies and establish a kingdom in all its senses. He brought in ancient, not just rituals, but way of thinking, ancient polity, value system. He made sure he adapted himself and updated himself on technology front, cavalry, gunpowder, so on and so forth. Navy, most importantly, navy, so on and so forth. Thirdly, he tried and actively encouraged the bringing back alienated Indians back to Indic folds. So various people who had been forcibly converted were converted back to Hinduism by at the orders of Chhatrapati and his successors. It continued throughout the existence of this Hindavi Swarajya 2.0, if I may call it. So almost all five, 6 points, six aims were attacked, at least attacked, and to large extent achieved by our ancestors during this iteration of our resurgence. See, this is the fourth time we were trying, and fourth time we at on the fourth time we were able to address all six aims and substantially achieving or completing most of them. It's a huge achievement, but it has to we have to take into consideration that we had to have four unsuccessful rather minimally or limited success endeavors before this for this to succeed, and it had to go 700 years. If I mean 700 years is a very vague denomination because it doesn't convey the time, but it almost 30 to 40 generations. So for 40 generations, if somebody has forgotten to rule, how a 41st generation will start thinking of India as a power? How he will be devoid of any parampara of formulating defense policies, foreign policies, military doctrines, you know, revenue policies, so on and so forth. The de novo synthesis, while retaining the Sanatanatva, is fascinating aspect. After 27 years war, Baji Rao expanded this Swarajya into Samrajya. I have dealt with it in very detail in my previous talk. It reached its zenith in time of middle Peshwas, Nana Sahib and Madhav Rao. Ahat Tanjavur, Tahat Peshawar, Katak se Katak, from Peshawar to Tanjavur, from Peshawar in north, Tanjavur in south, Gujarat in east, Bengal in west. Almost all of India was brought under control or was brought under direct influence by Hindus after 700 years. Most most importantly, Punjab region, because Punjab has been the it has been the highway of all the Central Asian invaders since time immemorial. This particular dilemma is it's our main ye ki whether to how a power center sitting in Pune who has conquered India after 700 years think of prioritizing the reconquest of India. How no, it's a strategic decision to make because we have limited number of armies. We are talking about medieval armies. We are not talking about modern armies or Mongol armies, which can be in multiple deployed in multiple theaters simultaneously. Marathas were different from it from our previous iterations. We Marathas had two three various armies deployed in two three various sectors, but for north only one army was available because others were installed in south and west. And with how to prioritize the conquest while taking into consideration the economic part of it, the military industrial complex part of it, how to fuel our expansion whilst not overstretching ourselves and being hungry. In, Eventually we ended up making that exact decision or that exact mistake, which is the topic of Panipat, which I again dealt with in my previously. But this thought process of Pune Code in 1750s, ki to aim to complete the dream of Chhatrapati is given, it has to be done. How to prioritize, how to manage, how to deploy the pan-Indian armies whilst maintaining the coordinations, whilst maintaining the economics, whilst maintaining the coffers of the state are being replenished either by hook or crook. They resorted to various unsavory tactics, chauthai, etc. They had to be done because the trade was completely demolished by Mughals by in the preceding centuries. So they had to update their armies, and there was no economy to fuel that updating. This was the same problem which Russia faced just prior to First World War. Same because military upgradation is very expensive. Trade has to fulfill that financial deficit. But in non-existent trade, what to do? So this is a very unique problem which Marathas or Hinduvi Swarajya at this point had to face because we were never in this position before this. We never had to look at a pan-Indian situation with whilst maintaining the economic and other policies and foreign policies. How to deal with Shah of Iran, how to deal with Central Asians, how to deal with the British. It's a very new and very different position we were in for the first time in those many centuries to tackle all these problems simultaneously, which we are today nowadays we do it with quite ease. But we have the knowledge and the experience of our ancestors of what they did and what we should do and what we should not do. What we should not have done was, of course, going into Punjab before liberating Ganga Valley, because Punjab was war ravaged and the return on investment, if I could use the word, of controlling Punjab was much longer. Nana Sahib Peshwa, in his final, just prior to Panipat, had uh, spoken to Dattaji Scindia to abandon Punjab and go towards east to take care of Najib, Shuja, and Bengal. And then Punjab can be taken care of in by subsequent generations. But without taking care of our back, we went and opened a two-front war to uh, to to put in a simple way. And we were found in a pincer between Ganga-based alienated Indian Ummah headed by Najib and Shuja, and a foreign Ummah signified by Abdali. And we were between rock and hard place, and hence Panipat happened. When there are various other reasons to it, but the strategic or geopolitical reason for it is we should not have entered Punjab before taking care of Bengal and East. But the thought process which went into it and what we can learn from it today is the whole point of this particular talk. The second important consideration, which is very relevant even today, is the activation of Islamic Ummah. So Ummah is this Islamic brotherhood, pan-Islamism, wherein I have to mention this one particular point that the sense of geography amongst Muslims is much better than amongst Hindus, especially medieval Hindus, because Muslims all over know about what's happening in Palestine, know about what's happening in Mecca, Medina. They are connected by this network of madrasas and mosques and roaming qazis and mullahs, etc. So they have had, they may not know where exactly the coordinates of Makkah, Medina, and Palestine is, but they know something is happening to our people in that those faraway lands. This sense of belongingness of a Muslim in Madurai or in Kerala to a Muslim in Palestine or in France or in Algeria is very, it's something to, it's a very important factor which our maybe our ancestors did not take into consideration, but we at the hindsight we have to see it that Ummah was activated whenever the threat was on the political dominance of Islam on India. Somehow it's a trigger point. Until a point they can be pushed. After the point they are activated. This is what happened when Shah Wali gave the call of jihad against Marathas. That Kafirs are reclaiming India. What are we doing? And Shuja, Shia and Sunni, Shuja and Najib came together. There are various other factors, of course, various other factors. There are political and coercion and various other factors. But it will be foolish of us to ignore the activation of Ummah concept when we are speaking of the mistakes or the geopolitical considerations that our ancestors had to deal with. In 1750s, we did not have the experience of this pan Islamic Ummah activation. In 1680s or in 1590s, we were pretty localized. In Vijayanagar had this particular year when all the five Muslim sultanates in Maharashtra and the central India, they united to defeat Vijayanagar at Talikot. So 200 years ago, something similar had happened, but the memory of it was not very fresh in the policymakers in 1750s, where the similar activation happened. And there is no analog of activation of Ummah in amongst Hindus. I mean, because they're very totally different value systems, they're totally different civilizational entities. So in 1750s, the Peshwas and the policy makers had to deal with this completely new concept of activation of Ummah, which bridges all the gaps for meeting one desire, one goal. Is quite new. So this is one important lesson that we now in hindsight should remember. And they in those shoes, I mean, it's a very unenviable position I find when I think of Sadashirao Bhau with all those armies and other things. I mean, we know about more or less about Panipat. Again, I will not go into battle per se because it is a I don't like to speak only of Hindu defeats. Hindus have this habit of focusing only on our defeats. We have not spoken enough of our victories. We speak less of Atak, but we speak more of Panipat. So it's very Hindu way of looking at our negatives first, then positive, so on and so forth. But it's very unenviable position for Sadashirao how to be in when Uma is activated and there is nothing analogous in our side or in Hindu sides to activate. There is no key which will counter activation of Ummah. And we know Panipat happened. It was a stalemate. Battle per se was defeated. We had to retreat temporarily, but the damage which we did to northwestern invaders was so huge that, as I said in my earlier in the same talk, that almost complete it basically sapped the strength of northwestern invaders, which had been ravaging India for since Rigvedic times, to be honest. So that is a very big achievement per se of this particular empire. The second part of the policymakers is the technology. Access to horses, as we know, India is a hot country. How the quality of horses which are grown or breeded in India is slightly lower than as compared to Central Asian ones or Arabic ones. Height, weight, endurance, so on and so forth, and numbers. Rajputs had the advantage of having a Kathiawadi breed of horse. Shivaji Maharaj was lucky in that front that by that time we had mastered breeding Deccani breed of horse in India. So whilst horses in India or in South were of short stature, at least we had enough horses. We always had to import horses. Shivaji Maharaj was always importing horses, importing gunpowder, importing guns, importing steel, so on and so forth. He's always and he made it sure he is importing from Britishers because Islamic powers won't sell it to them. Access to saltpeter and gunpowder, the raw material for gunpowder, rock salt. It's predominantly found in modern day Telangana, the ancient mines near Golconda and all. Again, we did not have access to those mines. That is one more reason why we frequently say, why didn't Bajirao or Peshwas finish off Nizam of Hyderabad? His artillery was superior, and we did not have. We have to understand that by this time the gunpowder and the gunpowder based weapons have been continuously evolving. In Rana Sanga's time, if we fire a cannon, you have to wait for 1.5 hours for cannon to cool down so that we can fire the next round. The time has been drastically reducing. The range has been improving. The chemistry of the gunpowder had been improving. The number of steel, the chemistry of the alloy, the steel had been improving. So artillery was becoming, or gunpowder-based weapons, muskets and all, were becoming more and more deadly and more important, and more important factor while determining the military doctrine. Should the military be cavalry centric or should it be artillery centric? This again was a very important decision by Sadashivrao Bhau to fight under covering fire of artillery. So the formation of Marathas and Panipat was that artillery will fire, the cavalry will charge and return, whilst the entire camp makes move towards the river. That was the point. But all was to happen under the covering fire of artillery. This is a very modern concept. Napoleon, 40 years later, mastered it. He invented many new things, but in my opinion, as far as I know, Bhau was one of the first individuals in the world to understand the importance of artillery and how it is going to change. And to his credit, artillery did deliver. I mean, Maratha artillery was blazing fantastically. Albeit they were heavy artillery, many times they were overranged, but the the handling of left front by Ibrahim Gardi and his artillery was fascinating. And for a time being, battle was moving towards Bhau's side, predominantly fueled by the performance of gunpowder and artillery-based weapons they had in their army. So this military doctrine, but the old, I mean, the even World War One armies had to fight this attitude. It took million deaths per se in Belgium and in Marne, where cavalries were mowed down by machine guns, to understand that age of horse is over, finally over. So it took, if I may say so, from Panipat to 1914, 1915, to for military leaders to finally accept that horse is no longer a cavalry charge unit. It's only for movement and all. So it's a very lesson learned very harsh way, but and it is learned after millions of deaths from many sides. Bhau was one of the first, amongst the first people who had to encounter this particular problem. How to change a cavalry dominated army to artillery set piece based battle piece, where cavalry is playing a supporting role, and how to convince it to your officers and your cadre, how to have a command and control system where a command from Bhau or from commander is unambiguously conveyed to the last soldier in various platoons or various companies, and they are followed. That drill, how many steps to take, where to stop, where to retreat, what are the orders. It's a very fascinating thing to think of. So many new things had to be invented and dealt with due to changing technology. So it's a very evolving scenario, and we do not look at history from this particular point of view. We don't consider engineering and the advances in science and how they affect our warfare, our way of life, even whilst we are experiencing it in our own lives in modern day. Our life 20 years ago is drastically different than ours is today in Internet of Things IoT era. So similarly, the area of time of Bajirao is drastically different from the time of Sadashivurao Bhau, where he had to deal with the camel-mounted artillery of Afghani. Ability to field multiple armies in multiple theaters. It's a very modern concept. Most of the medieval armies had one army. If you look at Alexander's the world conquering, if you can pardon my language, he didn't conquer the world, but as he touted, Alexander the Great, he had one army, most probably 50 to 80,000 soldiers, and he conquered from Greece, Egypt, Mesopotamia, Persia, until until India, until Indus River, until Jhelum River. It is one army. If you can Xerox, somehow we can Xerox, photocopy that one army into two armies, three armies, four armies, and if you can do it 100 times, 200 times, then we have a modern army wherein Germany could have, or Soviet Russia could deploy 200 divisions, multiple theaters. Very similar to what Mongols did in 1200s. Mongols, when they attacked Khwarezmian Empire in Central Asia, Samarkand, multiple attack points, multiple independent armies attacking from various points. The sheer coordination between these 5, 6 armies attacking at same point. It was like Mongols were coming from some higher league to fight some amateurs. That's how they, of course, dominated Europeans and Central Asians and Persians and Chinese. Maratha army or Hindavi Swarajya 2.0's army in 1800 1700s showed this particular concept. Marathas had 4, 5 armies deployed or deployable armies. There was an army in Gujarat, there was an army in Nagpur to take care of Eastern India, there was an army in Karnataka. There was army which went with Bhau, the real one, the cream de la cream of Maratha army. And another army was en route to Panipat under the leadership of Peshwa himself. So the ability to field multiple armies and to coordinate between them, it's a very modern concept again. And we had to evolve and adapt because it is impossible otherwise to rule India unless we have multiple armies which can independently have their own command and control system. So this lesson to field multiple armies in multiple theaters whilst coordinating with each other, it's a very modern concept, and we started learning it during this particular era in 1750s, 1750s. This particular 5, 6 decades, final decades. Umma, on the other hand, had only one army or two armies, if we could count Najib, but Najib's army or Mughal army was namesake. The real army was of Abdali, and that one army was devastated. Whilst Indians or Hindus had still 7 armies left to field in various theaters. That is why we reconquered India. I mean, within 2 months of this victory in Panipat, Abdali basically ran away. He gave back Punjab to the east of Satluj back to Marathas. So there was basically status quo ante. Only thing that was lost was family of Peshwas and family of Sindhiyas. They lost their family members, and of course soldiers died. But there was no strategic debilitating impact due to this particular defeat. Hence, I call it a stalemate. And it was not debilitating because Hindus could field multiple armies throughout the geography of India by then, even if Rajputs and Jats were neutral in this particular episode. As I said, the only crisis which emerged was eradication of these leaders from Peshwa and Sindhi family. Mantle was passed on to Madhav Rao, Maharji Scindia, and Nana Fadnavis. And the greatest blow, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many learned historians, was the early death of Madhav Rao Peshwa at age of 27 due to tuberculosis. There's a very famous science fiction novel by Dr. Jayanta Narayika, the famous astrophysicist, where he imagines the time where Madhav Rao did not die. No? Somehow he gets cured. and he imagines India having a reformation like Japan had. You know, India becoming a modern state under long-lived Madhavrao Peshwa, who lives in this scenario in alternate history, age of 60, 70, rules India until 1820s. There is no Battle of Vasai, there is no Treaty of Vasai, there is no loss of Patparganj, there is no Battle of Khadki, there is no Battle of India remains no the way I showed in the previous map. India remains a Hindavi Swarajya whilst modernizing militarily, strategically, economically. So he has, of course, it's a science fiction and it's an alternate history, but it's a very fascinating scenario nonetheless because we were in the process of doing so. We were stumbling, we were falling apart, we were having our lessons learned, some very easily, some in very harsh manner. But just like every any other nation or any other civilization, we were stumbling and learning the lessons needed to be learned while issuing into a modern world dominated by gunpowder and industrial revolution, so on and so forth. So the greatest blow was the loss of this particular one man who had this particular integrity and vision to sail us through that tumultuous time. Death of Mother Rao at age of 27. It's my fantasy. If I could go back in time, I could just give him a course of streptomycin or rifampicin. Enough pills to last for 6 months. Just take 2 pills a day and just live. And again, yeah, fascinating. It's a very good dream to think of how we might have evolved. We may have had something analogous to Meiji Restoration in Europe or in Japan. Sorry, where Japan modernized without being westernized. It didn't happen, hence we are here. The last point is access to steel and famines. There's a very big famine which is very underplayed in 1790 to 1800 in area which was controlled by Maratha in the Swarajya, Maharashtra, Karnataka, MP, Gujarat, the heartland. Around 12 million people died in this Doji Bara famine, and this famine and the deaths caused in this famine was a very debilitating effect on ability of Hindavi Swaraj to draw cadre to raise armies. Ability of Hindavi Swaraj to dominate India for 100 years was its inability to field multiple armies, and for that you have to draw cadre from all parts of India. There were people from Karnataka, Maharashtra, Gujarat, MP, modern day MP, Rajasthan, Haryana, UP, Odisha, Bengal, which are forming Maratha army, or we call, as I prefer to call, Hindu Swarajya army. The ability to draw the cadre is reduced for even if for a short period when there is a sudden loss of life in due to famines. This is one of the very important factors which is usually underplayed as to why we lost to British in 1802 in Battle of Asai. All these reasons led to the declined physical quality of Maratha army. 1802 to 1805, as we call Second Anglo-Maratha War or Anglo-Hindi Swarajya War, which actually Britishers East India Company won and got the territory of India as theirs to rule. It was formalized in 1818, but the war was, to be honest, lost in 1805 when Yashwantrao Holkar finally surrendered to the East India Company generals after 45 years of war. Um, all these reasons led to the loss of 1802 and 1818. But these reasons are very important for us to remember because if we look at our India as it is today, we have, I mean, if we disregard British rule and Mughal rule, they were decidedly foreign rules. The last known Indian configuration or Indian political player who ruled India as per Indian values was Hindavi Swarajya. So we have to learn from the experiences and the mistakes of what our ancestors did and continue to fulfill their aspirations so that we are able to fulfill all the six goals which I think are necessary. Lastly, I would like to end my talk on this particular cycle of history. See, there's a oft repeating motif in Indian history that every 90 years there's a tipping point coming in the history of India where, of course, there's a lot of bloodshed, but the tipping point is need not always be bad for Indians. It can sometimes also be good for Indians. We have emerged victorious in few of these instances, but in every instance, there has been an activation of Ummah. Akbar finally defeating Rajputs in 1590s. Hindavi Swarajya formalizing in 1674, and this thing, 37-year-old war under Aurangzeb, who embodies Ummah, who embodies the puritanical Islam to begin with. In 1680s, 1760s, Panipat, Buxar, Plassey, emergence of East India Company. 1857, of course, first Indian War of Independence. Again, Kal Khuda Ka, Mulk Badshah Ka, and again, it was dominated by Ummah. Ummah had activated or attempted its activity in 1857 also. It again happened in 1940s, partition of India, demand of Pakistan, so on and so forth. The second tipping point might be coming in 2030s. We should be in position from our history and our ancestors to learn from what all has happened and how we should adapt so that the Sanatana Nityanutana Dharma continues to prosper in the geography of our motherland, India. Thank you.
Yavanas or the Yonas, derivations of the Ionian, is or was a term used for the Greek Bactrian during the Mauryan and subsequent periods till the early 1st, 2nd century CE, not to my knowledge for Islamic invaders of the medieval period, as mentioned at one point in this talk. So I look forward to some explanations on that.
The Muslims have been called Yavans by Marathas in various letters. There are many letters describing how can you side with Yavans? How can no? The Shivaji is himself writing to his own brother, his half brother, you are deploying Yavans in in your own army. How can you think of winning against me? So I agree with you. Ki Yavans, the origin of this term Yavan is from Ionian, from Greek, but in 1700s it has been uh, liberally used to describe Muslims and Islamic power centers or Muslim as a people as well in general. Mastani is called Yavani by various contemporary. Mastani was again daughter of Chetusal Bundela and his one of Persian concubine, and she was lover and wife of Bajirao Peshwa. So the contemporary in his own family, Peshwa family called Mastani as Yavani, one who is from Muslim lineage. So
Okay, that brings me to a very interesting thought. It popped up in my mind. The movie Bajirao Mastani. If you've watched it, is it true or is it a
yeah,
man
it
ghadat
is true.
kahani?
It is true, of course. I mean, there was see how to say it. We have this habit of focusing on irrelevant details whilst ignoring the real thing. Yes, he fell in love with that woman. She loved him back. She was faithful to him. She bore him children. Her children died on Panipat defending Hindus along with Bhau. Her son Samsher Bahadur died on Panipat's field alongside Saishura Bhau. But since there was some family issues, usually, I mean, Peshwas coming from Brahmin caste were not known to marry multiple times. Kshatriyas are allowed to marry multiple times, are allowed to have multiple wives. Usually, Brahmins did not, at least in that contemporary era. Bajirao was a pathbreaker in many ways. So, from a conservative point of view, it is very disconcerting to find your son bringing a girl from and in time in 1720s in 17 that society was so shocked from the 27-year-old war against Muslims that son bringing a girl from a different societal background against whom our ancestors only 2 generations ago had fought a very bloody battle is a very difficult thing to adjust to. So there was, of course, a lot of opposition within the Peshwa family, but it is more popularized by a novelist called N.S. Inamdar in Marathi, on which he wrote the novel called Rao, and on which the movie is based. And it is, of course, one of the most important parts of Bajirao's life. But defining Bajirao on Mastani is a very it's it's unjust, in my opinion. The fact that he conquered half of India and did not do the single battle is. His battles are taught in military schools in America and Europe, how he maneuvered his armies and all. But we focus on his love life. It's
Rahul says, my question is it appropriate to keep using the word India for our country owing to its foreign origin and inadequacy to reflect our true identity?
so, ma'am, when we speak in, when I speak in Marathi, or I'm sure when you speak in your Hindi or your mother tongue, we refer to India as Bharat. आम्ही भारतात राहतो, भारत माझा देश आहे. We say Bharat very instinctively. Since we are speaking in foreign language, it has become a part of our habit. Of course, we will like to inculcate habit of saying Bharat every time, but it needs a very conscious effort nowadays. And while speaking in the flow, it's very difficult to keep in mind that Bharat, Bharat, Bharat. But I agree with you कि Bharat has this Adidevic connotations of being a Bhudevi, being a goddess, and especially in modern times where she has been commemorated as Vande Mataram, as Mother Goddess. It invokes very different feelings than India. So of course it is. It would be best if we all could inculcate that habit, but I think it will take. It's a matter of time. I mean, we have to spend time on it. Namaste.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful talk. I mean, for a pleasant evening, this was an amazing conversation. Is it all right if what you have discussed today and uh, keep my questions in current times? Would that be appropriate?
The whole point of Itihasa is to be rooted in modern times. We have to learn. The whole purpose of Itihasa is to learn and not to repeat those mistakes again.
Absolutely. I thank you so much for that. So my first question is about the six-fold challenge, beautifully portrayed by you. I think in a very crisp way, one can actually understand what exactly we need to achieve and what are the challenges to for us. Now that finally Hindus have their own state, whether we call it a Hindu Rashtra or not doesn't matter. It is a Hindu state. And so now, if we talk about the six-fold challenge, is it still relevant? And if it is relevant, how are we doing right now? That's my question number one. My question number two is about the Islamic Ummah that you talked about. And the last slide was beautifully portraying that every time you see that what has happened to us, Islamic Ummah has been activated. Now, if that is the problem, which means we need to unite the disfranchised Hindus. We can see to that an extent the national political party today is doing that, saying, forget your jati, you are a Hindu first. And doesn't matter which faith you belong to, you are a Hindu. This is a civilization that we are talking about. But I do not see a lot of dharm gurus doing that. Exceptions are like Sadhguru, but then I don't see major mutts coming forward doing that. Your points on that one. And the third one will be about technological consideration. We have brave warriors. We have so many examples. But then it looks like we are always chasing technological warfare.
Yeah.
Our enemies are always one step ahead of us. Now, finally, that India has taken part in global arms race, wherein we are making our missiles, selling it. Do you think that somewhere we are coming at par with globally?
Yes.
So these are the three questions.
Yes, I will answer the last one first. Yes, we are. We have to understand that when was the first chemical engineer passed out in India? It was in 1940s. No, very, very, very in very near future. So, I will give the example of Tejas. Ability to build Tejas, LCA Tejas, remarks the way in which India had to struggle to build a 4.5 generation aircraft. I don't know how familiar are you with metallurgy. What I know from reading in various forums, we are still struggling with the jet engine. The blades of engine have to be in form of crystal. They are not welded or molded. They grow as a crystal. They are called single crystal blade. And we are yet to master that technology, and nobody will give us to it. Nobody will give it to us. And because of that, Kaveri engine is heavy. So hence it cannot power Tejas. Hence we have to buy the engine for our indigenous Tejas from America. So these small things, it's very at the core of it is ability to master various engineering technologies, which have, in case of war, can we be assured that supply of F414 engines or F404 engines will be uninterrupted to keep on building Tejas in house. If it's interrupted, then what? It's a Tejas, chassis without engine. So all such things matter when the crunch time comes. Hence, it is very important. I believe in example with Tejas and Tejas being the flagship, we are closing that gap because we now have a critical mass of engineers and scientists who are at par with global standards. We still are lagging behind, but in various domains, in my domain, biotechnology, we are having this critical mass now for the first time in maybe 1,000 years, which are very close to the global cutting edge. So I see on the third question point of view, we will be very easily, we can do it. We can do it very easily in next 10, 20 years. And currently focus of the government is on that way. Which brings you to the second question, what government doing things and gurus not doing things. This is one more thing which Bajirao did. I hate to speak in terms of caste, but the fact that he brought in an OBC leadership, Holkars and Sindhiyas, if we use a modern term, Sindhiyas were shepherds. Holkars were shepherds, and Bajirao basically brought a talent from wherever he could find into the top rung of into the cutting edge, the wedge which cut the Islamic or the Abrahamic political hold was the churning of society from top to bottom, and that happened via politics. Gurus have always been chasing. It has to happen politically because there has to be an aihic motivation to do that. You can't inculcate adhyatmic drives in everybody, no matter what caste you are born in. But you have to do that societal churning, and that churning has to happen through politics or through economics. As the societal and as the economic it changes, it rises, people start thinking of higher drives. Who am I? Why am I here? Who am I? Koham. It's a very, very beautiful question, but it basically requires that your stomach is full. After your stomach is full, then you start looking at, am I Atma or am I Ahankar? Where I have come from, where will I go, so on and so forth. For that to happen, it has to happen through politics and economics, in my opinion. So gurus in this aspect will always be chasers. In Bappa Rawal's time, when I said Dharma Vijay or Vishwa Vijay, it was Bappa Rawal's Rajputs who defeated Arabs first. And after 50, 60 years of Bappa Rawal, Bhashyakar, Deval Rishi and all came to bring back, to do Ghar Wapsi on mass scale. But for that, the first political upheaval had to happen. So in my opinion, gurus will always be chasing one in this front. Thirdly, gurus do not have physical army to protect them even if they want to do it. Example is Shraddhanand in 1920s. He was killed by Abdul Latif and Abdul Rashid in 1920s because he was Arya Samaj. He was reconverting in millions, in lakhs, and he was assassinated, and nobody could do anything about it because he didn't have an army of 1,000 people with guns to protect him. So gurus always are meant to be defenseless. That's the whole point. We have designed our system in such a way that physical power should remain different, separate from intellectual power. So, which necessitates that physical power should dominate first. After physical power ensures safety of everybody, gurus will do their job. This is my way. And what was the first question I forgot?
I'm so sorry. I'll repeat that. So, about the six-fold challenge that you beautifully explained.
Yes.
Now that finally Hindus have the Hindu state, how exactly are we doing?
We do not have a Hindu state. We have a prospect of a Hindu state. We are where we were in 1740s. Something good is visible, but we are not there yet. We will be there yet. We would have been there yet had we won Panipat. That one activation has to be overcome. That test we have not completed. We have not come. That hurdle we have not crossed it. So until that hurdle is crossed, it's difficult to have a Hindu state materialize. But we have a prospect of it. So we should be happy that we are still in the game. We are where we were in 1750s. It's visible, but hurdle is also visible, and it's very enormous hurdle. and it's because we have to conflict between individuals and ideology, and we should not. It's a very mixed up issue. How to Ibrahim Khan Gardi was fighting for dharma. He was a Gardi, he was a Muslim, but whatever his actions were helping dharma. He was opposed by various people within dharmic fold because for him being a Muslim. But how to utilize these forces, how to that's the role of a king and society as a whole. So I think we are in competent hands, and they know how to engineer through tight situations. I only hope that they continue and they adapt and they nurture the next generation of leaders who are as adapt as them. Because otherwise, no, what happened to Bismarck in First World War? He was such a masterful politician, and he created such a complex diplomatic machine that after him nobody could run it. And world descended to World War One. That the web of alliances which Bismarck had built was so complex. While he was alive, it was fantastic, no, running like no, humming like a well-oiled engine. But when take him out of the engine, out of the series, and nobody knows how to run that machine. So I hope we nurture the generations of leaders who are as capable as the current ones. That when the current ones are no more, the drive will continue.
My question is, when we talk about the our epics and the last major epic, that the battle of Kurukshetra, that is Mahabharata. We read in Mahabharata the weaponry that we had was, we had weapons of great destruction. So what happened to that technology? I mean, when we come to 1600s or 1700s, we see that we are struggling with the cannons and probably such stuff. So what happened to that know-how? Was it real, or because see, Ved Vyasa created Mahabharata and he was contemporary. I mean, he was there. So when he mentioned of those weapons, what happened to them in the meanwhile?
There are two ways of looking at it. One, I don't know whether a nuclear bomb existed in if we go by Nilesh Ji's date 5000 BC, or if we go by MM Pandit's date 3000 BC. I don't know, but I know for sure we haven't yet found a screw in archaeology. So I mean, if we were able to build a flying aeroplane and a nuke, we should find some screw. No, it's a basic tool for a machine. So I don't know how seriously to take the descriptions of the machines. But the point of Mahabharata is not the description of the weapon. I will come back. I will assume that it is true, and I'll come back through internal reference also. But the point of Mahabharata, sir, is Shanti Parva by Bhishma to teach us what dharma and artha is, and Gita by Sri Krishna to teach how moksha is. Entire story of Mahabharata, it is a history, of course, it's a itihas. But the moral or the two morals of why Vedavyasa took pains to write this 1 lakh verse long epic was to drive home the points mentioned in these two parts, Shanti Parva and Gita, so that we are benefited to achieve Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. So the purpose of writing Mahabharata is not to show कि पुष्पक या ब्रह्मास्त्र था या पाशुपतास्त्र था. No, it was to tell you how to live A and how to achieve moksha B. Now, secondly, we assume it is true and we go from narrative point of view. Arjun himself did not teach all this weaponry to his sons, to Parikshit, to his not son, his grandson. Arjun and Satyaki destroyed all the knowledge of weaponry. After their death, that knowledge has stopped, and Vedavyas mentions it, because that weaponry was the reason why Ashwatthama killed sleeping sons. Not just sleeping sons, he killed the very fetus in the womb of Uttara. When he releases Brahmastra, and then Arjun releases Brahmastra in response, and Vedavyas and Brahma comes to stop them. That is the point after which Arjun and Satyaki had repository of all the weapons. Everybody else was killed who could know it, and they decided not to teach it to the next generation, to Parikshit. And Vedavyas mentions it. So from internal point of view, it is very clear that it was a conscious decision by Arjun not to, this sort of war should not happen again. This was the reason. And from our point of view, I don't know how much they read. Maybe Arjun was really efficient in eradicating all the traces of technology which could make the weapons. Hence, we are not able to find anything in archaeology. But from both points of view, it was a conscious decision ki nahi, there should not be such war again. It's a naive wish because humans always find an excuse to fight with each other, and they will fight with the best weapons they have, and they will always innovate new weapons.
It's not a question, just an observation. And I just realized why during your talk that the temples were basically, destroyed by the Muslim invaders during their rule. So in Delhi, for example, I rarely find a mention of an ancient temple, even though Delhi has been there for probably more than a millennium
Yes,
now.
yes.
So the only temple that I could find a mention of was probably the temple of Yog Maya in Mehroli, probably.
Yes,
And other than that, I don't think there is any ancient
agree.
temple
Agree,
left.
agree.
This is something which I just realized.
Yes. Almost all temples are built in 1760s, 1770s.
Yeah, correct.
North of Krishna River. South of Krishna, there are many ancient temples.
Yeah,
Due to, because until there they didn't go that far and lasted that long. But yeah, even in Maharashtra, there are very few temples which are older than Peshwa era. Ones which are there older, which were so gad gaye the, they were under earth, and they were unearthed, like Ellora, Ajanta. They are also desecrated, but they were mostly unknown. So hence they were saved. But the normal one, Trambakeshwar was destroyed and mosque was built on it. Trambakeshwar ka आज का temple is built by Nana Sahib Peshwa in 1750s. So it is, yeah.
I will ask a question on future. I will not ask in past. I will try to go in future. When we go do a SWOT analysis of India, or you can say Hinduism, we have a very uncertain future. When we do it, we have a very uncertain future. Okay, this is our advantages, but there are very much weaknesses. So there is a very uncertain future. If we have a very good Hindu government, but it's not doing anything for our Hindus people. So we will see just like we have a very good people who knows technology, but they are not working for India. They are working for someone else. So what are your views? How to regain that? How to get our SWOT analysis best? So we will have no uncertainty.
Sir, I don't know how to read future. Future A is always uncertain, and our scriptures tell us that it is basically our karma today, which becomes our bhagya tomorrow. So only way to make a good future is to do a good karmas today in our individual capacity, and us as a Rashtra, we have to do good karma so that future becomes secure. But either ways, no matter how good karma we do, there are various other vectors in play which will always make it. There will be a uncertainty always, and that's what makes. And Hinduism acknowledges this uncertainty. Hence the life is worth living, in my opinion. If you know everything what's going to happen tomorrow, it's well. So only thing we have in our hand is to do the karma right in today, in present tense. We can't do anything about history. We don't know what will happen in future. Only thing we have in our present. It's a very cliched line, but it's it's really true.
Abhay says, I think Hindu state does not mean Hindu Rashtra. Rashtra will require a cultural unity established and recognized by the world. Today, a student president of Oxford had to resign because of Jai Shri Ram post. This should not happen. The Western world has to accept Hindutva positively rather than treating it as a communal force. So, what narratives do you think need to be spread for the global communities?
For us to be accepted as a ye, ma'am, only thing, bhaya bhi na hoy na preeti. The reason why I am opposed to the way China deals with various things, but the reason China is being, when I was in the, I will give you an example. When I was doing my MS, my PhD in Denmark, there are quite a few Chinese students sponsored by Chinese governments. So that we had this kitchens in every department where people could bring their lunch and they could heat it up and eat. So in every kitchen during February there was this dragons and all, red, everything red. And nothing happened when there was Gudi Padwa or there was Diwali. There was no diyas lighting up. So people respect strength. People respect those who speak about their strength loudly and again. So even if one person had to resign from Oxford chair for saying Jai Shri Ram, only recourse is to say, million people say Jai Shri Ram. They can't fire million people, and we are today not so deen and durbal as we were 100 years ago, that we were pushovers. We are, no matter how, wherever we place ourselves in individual capacity, in national ladder or international ladder, we still are a force to reckon with. So only way out is to, for 1,000 people around in Oxford University, to say Jai Shri Ram. I think people in Rutgers are doing it today against Audrey Trushke. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but Hindu Americans are rallying against the Hindu phobic posts and narratives of Audrey Trushke, risking their peerage, their grades, whatever. Students most they care about is grades, but kids are risking their grades, right? So even if one person had to resign from Oxford for saying Jai Sri Ram, other Hindu kids in Oxford had to shout it, shout Jai Sri Ram again and again, whilst explaining them what Ram stands for. That's the only way we have to move ahead. Hence I said it's karma. That's the karma we have in our hands.
I should give my answer, but I think it was a half answer, because in SWOT analysis we give off threat, means present situations which we see, and we do it is threat, weakness, opportunity, and threat. But if with India we see there are more threats, okay, and we are not working on our threats. We are working on our strength. We are working on our weaknesses. We are trying to take opportunity, but we are not working on threats anything, okay. And the opportunity also, what we are working, we are not working at that level where all the world is working. So my question was that how to overcome our threats, okay, which will
The threats that I can see right now are technological. One of the threats. We are working on it. There are some threats are ideological. The whole point of Sangam talks is to build an ecosystem which will cater to such threats. So expecting things from government, especially in modern current setup, is very limited thing to do. We as a community that we are doing right now is basically addressing in our capacity, like the Gilari of who helped Ram to build Setu, that one small squirrel. In our capacity, we are trying to make that Setu. Millions, billion, like there are 1 billion of us. If we all become squirrels, Setu will be built. But it's difficult to envision for one person to envision all threats, even if it is Narendra Modi or whoever. We have to find threats in our vicinity and try to address it in our capacity and as per our competencies. If I am a biotechnologist, I have to try and invent new things in India. If you are an IT scientist, or if you are I don't know, whoever you are, if you are a politician, you are an economist, you have to try to identify and mitigate the threats at your level. And if they are larger threats, you have to intimate the people who are in position to mitigate them. But apart from that, unless there's a coordinated, concerted efforts by all of us, it's difficult. We've mitigated various threats in our previous iteration in 1750s. Some threats remained, some threats we couldn't do it, in spite of our strengths. We saw it. They knew what is going to come, but there's nothing Bhau could do. When he's seeing Ummah being activated, at that position, you are at point of no return. So many times, many threats you see are materializing, and you can't do anything about it. You have to play on your own strengths. So, only answer I can give is to find your own strengths and try to mitigate threats that you see at your level, and then I believe that all devatas will ensure we will exist if we do our karma right. Or if nothing else, then Kalki Maharaj will come and destroy everything. I rather hope that does not happen. We do our karma enough that Bhagwan remains in Vaikuntha and we can remain on earth and continue existing.
as there's a saying that those who forget their own history are condemned to repeat it. I think you're doing a wonderful job by making us recollect our history and remember it and learn from it. And what gives solace is that we have always been attacked by invaders and Yavanas since the Dasharajana war in the Rig Veda. And this is not the worst time. We have also seen far much worse times since the Rig Veda, and that gives us solace. And also, as Sanjay Dikshit ji said, that our time is quasi-cyclic.
Yes.
So we have these Chaturyugs. Once the Kalyug is over, Satyug has to come.
Yes,
So that gives a lot of solace to us, and we have to learn from our history to fight back these invaders, which have always been there. And it's not a worse time. We've always seen far more worse times.
Somebody else, a new Asura always comes, man. Always comes, but Devas are always there to deal with them. You can't wish off Asura. There is no Kayamat in where eternal heaven will come. No. New Asura will come. We just have to, as Churchill said, we have to keep buggering on the beaches. We will be there. Our kids will be there.